This is Joy News. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of The Pulse. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. Also on DSTV channel is 421, GoTV channel 144. We are a home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. This afternoon, you are free to go to the beaches, but you must show proof of vaccination against COVID-19. That's the latest Greater Accra Regional Security Council directive as it places ban on beach operations with no vaccination, no entry policy.
8-year-old carrying a...
We'll also update you on our COVID cases as a country. Also this afternoon, how was your 2021 as the year draws gradually to a close? We look back on the year many have described with mixed descriptions. And also, we'll prepare you for the year 2020. I'll be joining the studios by a life coach. And later this afternoon on The Pulse, I have a big announcement. Please stay with me. I am Emefa Apau. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Remember, we're also streaming live on YouTube and all our social media handles at Joy News on TV. You can tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle also is Emefa Apau across all social media handles. We'll be right back with the details. Please stay with me. Well, this afternoon you can go to the beaches, but you need to show proof of vaccination. That's the latest policy from the Greater Accra Regional Security Council as they ease restrictions on beach activities or business. In a review meeting with stakeholders, that's the RegSec announced that persons who will patronize any beach in Accra must show proof of vaccination or be willing to be vaccinated before gaining access to the shores. Regional Minister Henry Quartey announced this at a Security Council meeting that officials of the Ghana Health Service and the Police Service will be there to enforce the new directives. My colleague Manuel Kranting has more in this report.
It is Christmas time and me and my family are at the beach having fun. We go to school the whole year and it's time for us to relax.
That is 8-year-old carrying a sari, who has visited the La Pleasure Beach Resort with her family 24 hours before now. It would have been illegal as a ban by the Greater Accra Regional Security Council on beaches was in force. Beyond denying kids like Karen the joy of hanging out with friends and family this holiday season, the ban hit hard at the beach operators, making them hundreds of thousands of cedis in losses. Samuel Kote is general manager of the La Pleasure Beach.
People are buying drinks and vegetables so that we prepare this, and the beach is basically about eating and drinking. Okay. But we collect, it's a toll collecting facility too. So while we have lost the toll collecting, the bar and the vendors too have lost their daily bread because they have to sell food to the customers. So all their things, as I'm talking to you, some have spoiled.
But that is about to end. Henry Quartey is Greater Accra Regional Minister.
That has been arrived at again today by RegSec. They can operate but ensure that they adhere to the COVID safety protocols, that as much as practically possible, people who patronize the place must show proof of vaccination. If they haven't vaccinated, Ghana Health Service are going to mount posts at entrances of almost all the beaches, and they will educate people and also vaccinate them.
How will this be ensured?
They said we should contact the Municipal Health Directorate so that they will bring their equipment from now to come to mount it at the gates. So anybody who comes in has not vaccinated, then they will take the chance to vaccinate the person before you enter.
So what is going to happen?
then we have to bounce you back. The directives from the regional minister is that the police should assist us to make sure all the protocols are adhered to. So we will liaison with the police command to help us do the job. We cannot do it alone. Although we have internal security also to enforce whatever we have to tell them, we also rely on the police. We have the Marine Police also coming here.
While the authorities work to enforce this, many of the revelers are excited that they get to unwind from a stressful COVID-19 year at the beaches.
It's good news that the ban has been released, that we can now go to or come to the beach. I've come with my kids, as you can see, and we are having fun. And I learned we are supposed to be vaccinated before you are allowed to come. It's a good news because the COVID is real.
My family and I decided to come to the beach at the end of the year. When we got to Accra, there was a ban on the beach, but as we were moving around, we realized they had lifted the ban, so we decided to come here. But that wasn't going to be a problem. I think they did that because of the COVID, and that wasn't going to be a problem because my family and I, we've all vaccinated.
For now though, you're free to go to the beach. Just get vaccinated. Manuel Cranting, Joy News, Accra.
Well, let's bring in my colleague and head of our health desk, Fred Smith, with what our figures looks like when it comes to COVID-19. Fred Smith, walk us through it. You have been studying it. It appears something significant happened on Christmas Day.
As we speak, our confirmed cases since the outbreak is 141.
What our figures looks like when it comes to the COVID-19 and the rankings and the status. It appears we are hitting almost 10,000. We are at 9,000 and over, and he'll give us that distribution and the breakdown. I'll also bring in the Deputy or the Regional Director of Health at the Ghana Health Service, also joining us shortly on this no vaccination, no entry policy and where we are when it comes to vaccination of persons in the Greater Accra region. Let's try again and see if we have Fred Smith. Hello, Fred.
If you can hear me.
Super, I can hear you.
Yes, great. So I was saying that on Christmas Day, we had 1,074 cases of COVID-19 infections, meaning that across the country, this number of people caught the virus wherever they are, but we have majority of those in the Greater Accra region. And so Accra continues to lead in terms of cases with more than 90% of our COVID-19 cases now in the Greater Accra region. It brings our active cases to 9,534 MFA. The confirmed cases since the outbreak now is 141,295. Our deaths, 1,287. I want to explain to you what has happened. So from December 1, we had 27 cases. Between that time and now, we've been rising consistently. In fact, the surges have been really sharp from December 19 until we got to December 23, when we had our highest increase, our highest single infection day, which was 1,324 cases in one day. And we had some declines as well on the 24th, thereabout, 23rd. We had some declines until we came to Christmas. We were actually expecting that by Christmas, our cases were going to go up quite significantly. Thanks be to God, it wasn't that significant, and that may account for the reason for the review of the Greater Accra Region's directive on beach attendance. And as we've heard from the Regional Security Council, persons who want to go to the beach can do so, except that they must have vaccination cards before they go to the beaches.
Okay, well, Fred, indeed, this is what it's looking like in terms of our figures and all. But I'm sure that there have been a number of measures, rafts of measures that were put in place ahead of this. We'll be talking about the beaches, for instance. But does it look like these figures compared to what we've seen 24th, 23rd, we've been looking at these figures comparatively. How does it look like?
Well, there is a bit of a decline in our active cases, which is very good. If we continue this way into, say, next week or 2 weeks, I'm sure we'll be getting out of the woods one more time. The fourth wave will be fading away. So from the 19th of December, when we had this huge jump, we are seeing a case around 19th of December. We had 321 cases in one day. As we speak, we have 1,074. Right from 1,324 cases on the 23rd of December. If we continue the decline this way, then in about a week or two, we should see our cases dropping to, say, 17 or, say, 200 cases in one day, which will be great for us.
Thanks. That's the head of our health desk, Fred Smith. None other to talk about COVID like he does. Thank you very much, Fred, with that very latest. But let me bring in the Greater Accra Regional Health Director, Dr. Charity Sapong, on what we're doing differently. It looks like Greater Accra is still leading when it comes to COVID-19 and issues about vaccination as well. We are grateful for your time today here on The Pulse, Madam. So first, what are our figures looking like when it comes to vaccination in the Greater Accra region?
Thank you very much for having us. I must say that the vaccination, as much as we could have wished that more people will take it, currently the uptake has been very good, especially looking at the month of December. That was declared as the vaccination month by the Minister of Health. Patronage has been very good. For just the month of December, we've been able to vaccinate over 420,000 people, which is equivalent to almost about 20% of the total numbers that we vaccinated between the period of March and November when we started with the vaccination. So I must say that the campaign has gone down very well. Uptake is quite high, but we are still not resting. We are still doing lots of advocacy, lots of education. We are still engaging stakeholders and all other persons that can help to increase the uptake.
Well, issues about hesitancy and then the superstitions and all were high when we started this whole process of vaccinating people in this country. As at the last count, though, how does it look like? You say that you're on course in terms of the targets and all, but the hesitancy and the excuses that have been given, is it any different? Is it now penetrating? The message is now penetrating to the people such that they are coming out in their numbers to do so?
It varies from community to community. So within every district, we are kind of looking at what exactly, for those who are refusing to take the vaccine, what is driving them, what is their reason, and based on the findings that we have, we tailor interventions to be able to reach out to them. And I must say that we've been able to reach out to some. Of course, we still have some vaccine hesitancy in certain areas, but then we are still dealing with it. One thing we are doing is that within every locality or every district and every community, we are engaging with persons that we have identified as champions or opinion leaders, persons of influence who are in the society, who can, better assure the people, allay them of their fears. Because some of the reasons, they are varied. Some think it has to do with fertility issues, all sorts of issues. So we are engaging people that can reach out to the people, making sure that we give them their vaccines in public. They are also going with us on our health education campaigns. And I must say that by and large, we are breaking through. Though some areas are still very difficult, but then we are again ensuring that we intensify our advocacy and we intensify our health education activities to make it more acceptable.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that it varies from area to area. Are there some particular areas that you've identified, for instance, that we can name publicly that needs help, and what exactly has been done to ensure or reverse the trend?
For that, I cannot tell you A or B or C. But then there was an area where we realized that people were refusing the vaccine because according to their belief system or their belief, anyone who takes an injection, within their community dies. So such people were able to engage the Queen Mother, we engaged other opinion leaders. They openly took their vaccines, and I must say that we've been able to break through, and at least about 20% of the population in that area have been vaccinated, and we are looking forward to doing more. So that's what we are doing.
Okay, fantastic. As a country, we have reviewed our target of 20 million by the end of the year 2021 to the end of the first quarter of the year 2022. And as such, there are some measures that have been put in place. For instance, no vaccination, no entry policy, starting with the beaches. Earlier, it was a total ban, closure on beaches, but now we're told that you can go, but have to show your vaccination card. And this is being done in collaboration with the Ghana Health Service. Has it taken off, and how has it been so far, you'd say?
Yes, the decision was taken today at the latest RESEC meeting that was held this morning, in which it's now been agreed that, yes, people can patronize the beaches, but then you have to be vaccinated. And to, right on the back of this, Ghana Health Service, we are liaising with the owners of these beaches to set up vaccination centers at these beaches whenever they are going to have an event. So we've linked them up with the various districts and the district directors so that whenever there's going to be an event, we are going to be alerted, and then we will set up a mobile vaccination center there so that people that are not vaccinated will be, we encourage them, and we will then and there give them the vaccine. So that is some of the things that we are doing that we know will help us reach out to the public.
Be turned away entirely, but you'll be giving an opportunity to vaccinate on the spot. Then you can continue to the beach or wherever it is that you want to go.
Yes, you will be given the opportunity to vaccinate, and then also to ensure that you adhere strictly to all the other safety protocols.
Okay.
Because there and then when you take it, it takes about 2 weeks for the immune system to be properly built up to be able to fight the virus. But then in the interim, you are also encouraged to adhere to all the safety protocols, like wearing of the face mask, making sure that there are hand washing facilities available, hand sanitizers, and they have assured us, that they will not permit overcrowding. So based on how they see their size, they are going to come out with, tickets that will be sold to that limited number of people to ensure that there is proper social distancing as people come in. Okay. So once the tickets are finished, we are made to understand there is no way they are going to admit people without tickets in. And, we have also the security to help us. So I believe that all these measures that have been put in place will help us, continue with the fight and see the downward trend that we are all hoping to see.
We'll leave it here for now. Dr. Charity Sapong, we are grateful for your time. She's the Greater Accra Regional Health Director, interacting with us there on our vaccination as a region, and then also the latest intervention. There's been a review of a total ban on beaches. Now you can go to the beach if you want to, but you need to show proof of vaccination before you're allowed to enter. So that's what we've been talking about. But remember that we're live on the YouTube channel, on Facebook, and then also on all our social media platforms. At the top of the hour 4, we have a big announcement across all our platforms. You want to stay for that. But in the interim, one of Ghana's pristine buildings stand in what used to be a play area for colonial administration workers and elites of the then Gold Coast. The Ghana Club, founded in 1947, was a hotbed where some of the country's greats, from Kwame Nkrumah to President Mills, met to discuss anything of national interest. Today, it's an oasis in a busy area in downtown Accra. Joy News, Justice Bedu, went to meet these working, or those working to keep the legacies of Ghana Club alive.
The Ghana Club, a 20th century relic nestled inside what is now an enclave for government ministries and agencies. In pre-colonial Ghana, this place was a play area for Gold Coast elites, mainly European, their friends and Africans privileged to be working with them. Today, almost 100 years on, it stands almost like an oasis in a busy downtown Accra, overlooked by the Independence Arch, the Black Star Square, and the ocean.
Ghana Club goes back to my childhood.
Dr. Adrian Ni Odoi's father was president of the Ghana Club in 1974. Today, an accomplished medic himself, he too has been elected president.
We had 2 tennis courts then outside, and we would be the ball boys as our parents and their friends were playing. We would be the ball boys, and we would be rewarded with Coca-Cola or Fanta and some kebabs then.
Godfred Jan Nyante first came to work at the club in 1980. Today, 45 years on, he is the club's oldest and longest serving staff.
5th April 1980. That's when I came here in 1980, 5th April. There was a lot of members as at that time. Dr. Joseph Rata was a member. Professor Adubuain was a member. The late Akosa, that is Professor Akosa's brother, was a member. I will be 7, and I'll be 7 at this time. I'm laughing, and I'm also 7 because of their cracking of their jokes, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, and you can see that they are in a group, a nice group, which has been continued as such today.
I remember if you came up here, you would find a lot of people in very lively discussion in various corners, but generally coming to relax. But then one thing I learned was that serious stuff can be discussed in a relaxed way. That's the one thing I learned about the Ghana Club when I was old enough to understand. You know, there was always talk, and you could realize that your view was wrong, you know, and come to realize that yes, this is what it is, or you meet somebody who you had wanted to meet, you know, and hadn't had the opportunity to do so. If you needed something done, you could always talk to somebody here who could point you in the right direction. So it's still the same. We try to. The club has traditionally was made up of civil servants who worked just across the road and would meet and discuss issues, and also had a lot of people from the universities. So the lecturers would come, and also businessmen. So the club has been a melting pot of a lot of people, and there's always very lively debate, so it's been a very, very friendly and convivial, and it's a place where you can actually relax. We have a lovely breeze outside, which I'm sure you enjoyed when we had a chat earlier, and we're looking to keep it alive and to keep it going. Back in 1947, the civil servants who started this club used to meet at what was then the British Council. They didn't have their own place, as the Europeans did then, and had only the whites-only European club. And it was only in 1947 we got given the government. And it was the first Speaker of Parliament, Niyama Oyen, who was the first president.
The Ghana Club runs on membership. You must be recommended by 2 existing members in good standing. Applications are vetted and decisions are made to admit or reject anyone wanting to join. Like sand through the hourglass, the Ghana Club has stood the test of time. Inside its corridors, conversations over this country have been had by some of its most illustrious citizens. Those who manage today are poised to keep the flame aloft for many, many more years to come. Justice Pedu, Joy News, Accra.
Well, work has begun on the Multimedia Classroom project using the hydrofoam technology. The project engineer, Samuel Kofi Agbenyega, says work will be completed in 1 month. The Multimedia Classroom project is an initiative to explore philanthropy for development at the community level. It is expected to provide safe learning environment for some 700 school children in the central and northern regions. Project engineer Samuel Kofi Agbenyega joins us live with some details from the ground. We are grateful for your time, Mr. Agbenyega, and we must thank you for leading this project for us. But first off, I would want to find out which of the 2 sites you are joining us from now. Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Welcome. And I was saying that we appreciate you and thank you so much for leading this particular project for us. What would we do without you? Which of the 2 sites are you joining us from as we speak?
I'm joining you from Breman Tamra.
Okay. And how is the place doing? How's work going?
Work is ongoing. At the moment, the truck on it will coming to upload materials on the site. The community members are happy this morning the district engineer also came around, really saw the excavator trying to clear the place and all that. He came and he said, finally, he can go to bed and have a good sleep because the project is coming up.
But so preparatory work is what is going on. I think I can see some of the videos that MFA has sent through on the screens as we speak. And this is because of your contribution as a viewer, as an audience, and we appreciate that. But I would like to find out, so from this preparatory work stage, where are we going for those of us who know nothing about building?
Okay, so for now, we bring in the materials to be able to produce the hydroform blocks on site. They're already on site. And then we also bring in the chippings and then the blocks for the foundation. So these are the major materials that we need. Mainly after this Tuesday, the digging of the foundation and then everything concerning the foundation will go on, while the production of the blocks too will go on. So we are doing the foundation, however, so the production of the hydroform blocks. So maximum 4 weeks if we don't have weather conditions, any harsh weather conditions like maybe some rainfalls, then we are sure that by 4 weeks' time we should be able to get to the lintel with the structure, and then the roofing will be done.
Well, so how many units are we starting with? All things
we are
being equal?
doing 3 units. We are doing 3 rooms with 1 office. Of course, you need to give a place that the teachers can sit and then supervise the kids. So that is the design that we've got.
Can you paint a mental picture to me how this unit classroom block is going to look like?
3 unit classroom block, but you cannot just put up the 3 classrooms like that, just ordinary classroom. You need to produce an office or provide an office where teachers that are seeing to these kids will also sit and maybe mark books, discuss plans for the next day, and all this storage of teaching materials.
We call it the staff common room. That's what we call it.
Not the staff common room. The staff room is different. We have an office which occupy both the teachers and then the head teacher. So it's something like an office that whoever occupies that particular block will use, because there's already an existing structure. And this one will contain 320 students. That is our estimation, and then according to what the head teacher is telling us, the number of students here. So 320 will occupy this block.
Okay, and all things being equal, like you say, if weather is favorable to us, we should complete all this within a month?
Exactly.
Okay.
My main plan is that latest by January end date, we should be able to hand over the structure. If worst case scenario, maybe weather conditions, latest by first week of February, probably it might be the Valentine gift for the community.
What a Valentine gift that would be. Thank you so much. And from Breman Jamra, we are heading to another location in the northern region, right? Okay. It appears I've lost Mr. Agbenyega there on the phone. But many thanks, many thanks, immense thanks to the Israeli Embassy, the Forestry Commission, DBS, and to all our cherished audiences for your kind donations so far. But you can still support the Classroom Project if you haven't done so already, in cash and in kind. And for all your Momo transactions, you can send your donations to this number, 059 30 38832. That's 059 30 38832. It's the name is the Multimedia Group Limited, or better still, you can call 0302 211 680. That's 0302 211 680 for further inquiries. Well, you know that the Classroom Project is promoting social justice through philanthropy and is brought to us with support from the Star Ghana Foundation and funding by the Dutch Foreign Affairs Ministry under the Given for Change initiative, together with the Joy News Room, and also being led by our indefatigable MFA Atiamwa Eli. Now, the National Engineering Coordinating Team has described as worrying the negligence of some assemblies who are permitting individuals to encroach on portions of lands reserved for future expansion of roads. The group led by Kenneth Ashibe says government spends millions of Ghana cedis to compensate and relocate individuals who encroach on government lands and in some situations pay for the repair of utility cables damaged in the course of expanding already existing roads. He says the assemblies are responsible for protecting these parcels of lands. That is not the case everywhere. The team visited the Ablekuma North Municipal Assembly, where the assembly was found culpable for building its office on a reserved land. Michael Ashali was with the team and now reports.
The National Engineering Coordinating Team says it is championing advocacy to get people to stop building on areas like these. To the left of this place, there's a reserved land where government hopes that in the near future it may be able to expand this road. But as you can see behind me, the building of the assembly in itself lies in this reserved area. The next says this is very troubling for an assembly to commit such an illegality. The chairman of the coordinating team has been speaking to Joy News and says it's very expensive for government to come in to compensate individuals.
This is right in the middle of the reservation. And then not only is it in the middle of the reservation, already you're beginning to see Judah Food Palace also come. And there are other buildings that are also springing up in the reservation. So for an assembly that is supposed to police the reservation, who have been written to in December 2020 on the 11th, that was when the first letter came, for them to have ignored and then move from a temporary building to a permanent structure, and then they are supervising other permanent buildings come again in the reservation, that's definitely a major cause for worry. And this reservation is, as you all can see, it's a 150-feet reservation that has been left for quite some time now. And so for the assembly that is supposed to be policing this and ensuring that this is kept so that tomorrow, if government gets enough money and decides to expand this road, we are able to do that. But for the assembly to now take the reservation and also supervise others encroaching on the same reservation, it's very worrying. There can be no explanation of the fact that this is a new assembly and they are looking for land. Then the road reservation that is supposed to serve your people is the one you are building on, and then you are pretending others also encroaching on the reservation. They have, you see, the point about it is that this definitely is an illegality. This definitely is going to compound the problem of the people of Ablekuma North. Because what is going to happen is that you see already that others are following the bad example. And then if you are somebody who uses this road, you know that the traffic is just going to get worse. So definitely the solution to this, unfortunately, is a very expensive one. This building would have to be taken out. On the other option is for government to then say, we have enough money and then we are going to build a flyover over this particular structure. And your guess is as good as mine.
This portion of land, like many, are supposed to be reserved land close to some major routes in the country where government intends to expand the roads accordingly in the near future. But as you can see, new structures are coming up along it. And this particular stretch was supposed to be reserved with no building on it. But that is not the case. A rep from the Urban Roads Department on the National Engineering Coordinating Team has been speaking to us and said that this certainly must not be encouraged.
We have a bill of about 100 million to be paid to individuals for very few projects. Awoshi Pokwase, Pokwase Interchange, Beach Road, very few projects. The approval we have from land valuation is over 100 million. And a lot more are coming. Every month they meet, a lot more are coming. This can be prevented with good planning and implementation of the planning and development control. We should be able to minimize this cost to the whole state. If a land has been reserved as road, let's just go by that. Let's leave the road reservation for the development of the road.
Many attempts to get the assembly to respond to this has proven futile, including several letters that were written by the Urban Roads Department and that of the coordinating team. The challenge is not just with the Department of Urban Roads. Entities like the Chamber of Telecommunications also pays millions of dollars to get some of their cables that are destroyed in the course of construction of these roads. Ken Ashigbe, who also doubles as their national chair, spoke to us.
I'm pretty sure some of you who know will know that in 2020, for example, we spent $6 million in just repairing fiber that had been damaged. A lot of the poor quality of service that you get is because somebody has damaged some fiber. And it's not only the telcos that I'm talking about. I give you an example in Kumasi, where 4 kilometers of pipeline, Ghana Water Pipeline, was destroyed. If you ask electricity, they will also tell you about the damage that has happened to them because of the fact that, you know, the reservations have been encroached. They are not able to stay where they are supposed to stay. And then they come into the carriageway. When the roads are being done, then they are being destroyed.
Roads are very pivotal in the development of the country. And clearly, government is spending a lot of money to get this done, especially when people willfully build on reserved roadways. It will take the Ablekuma North Municipal Assembly and all other assemblies to rally behind government to make sure that this is nipped in the bud. Reporting for Joy News, Michael Ashali.
We'll take a quick break here on The Pulse. Remember, we have a big announcement at the top of the hour 4. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still here on The Pulse on the Joy News channel, also live on our social media platforms and myjoyonline.com. We have just a day, in fact, a matter of hours. We're hitting the year 2022. We all look forward to it and count our blessings. We've lost some, but the good majority remain here on earth and forging on. How do you prepare for the year ahead so you make the most out of it? This afternoon, we're going to have a conversation about preparations for the new year and what you should do to succeed professionally, spiritually, physically, amongst others, in your family life and your general well-being in 2022. Thankfully, I have with me in the studios Pastor Ken Fiati with the Makers House Chapel International for that conversation. Grateful for your time here in the studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Happy New Year in advance.
Yeah, many happy returns.
In spite of everything, we still have God, and I'm happy that you're with us in the studio. But maybe I'll just find out from you how year 2021 has been for you.
Well, from the physical perspective, it's been tough. But if you have a belief, and that belief is in the most sovereign God, you know that Bible tells us to count it all joy. And so no matter what it is that comes at you, you're able to scale through it, knowing that there's victory at the end of the tunnel.
As pastors, you have different strength from us. How are you?
We're supposed to have the same strength. The difference is that you should just know that the strength is not from within you. It's not about you. It's about something that infills you and indwells you. And so that is why God will take sinners like us and then fill us with His Spirit and lead us the way we should live. So basically, that is what maybe to some extent makes the difference, that when we see adversity, we know that it was said in Corinthians that a great and effectual door is opened. And there are many adversaries. So you need to know that in this life, you will have to come across obstacles. You have to find people not liking you. You have to find people working against you. But MFI, without friction, no car can move from one destination to another. So we need to understand that those challenges in life are necessary. The vicissitudes of life are necessary for us to go to the next level, knowing that the life here is just for a time and that we're going to move on to a better life someday. So you get inspired by the fact that there's always light at the end of the tunnel and a better place that you can go to.
Well, a lot to look back on in 2021, but of course we have life, so we still count our blessings, though very tough, I must say, very tough. But let's look into the year 2022. We have just a matter of hours, and we'll be, leaping into the year 2022 spiritually. I would want us to start from there. What should we be looking forward to? in the year 2022?
I think I would have to say a big thank you to a man like Dr. Michael Bodinyamiche, the founder and general overseer of the Makers House Chapel. If Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11:1, imitate me as I imitate Christ, and I think he's a good person to imitate in the Lord, because he gives you the blueprint and doesn't just tell you this is the way to go, but he leads the way. And I think that's what Jesus did for us when he was alive. And so he is somebody who is spirit-led, not just spirit-filled. And he's not somebody who goes bragging about what he carries. I'm saying all these things so that we can rightly place it in context, that if such a person says that this is what God has told him about the year that is coming, then it means that we have to look forward to it. In Luke 1:37, it says, with God all things are possible. Some versions say, and without God, nothing is possible. So it means that once we have God, we can face the year. And so for us at the Makers House, the year 2022 is a year of possibilities.
Okay.
Where you know that you are serving a God of all possibilities, a man who can take the imperfections of a man and use his perfection to perfect your imperfections. And so we're looking forward to the year 2022 very positively, knowing that God is going to take us through it. The challenges of 2020 and 2021 enough to build us up to know that we can enter 2022 with a hope that once Christ that we are leaning on will be fine. So 2022 is going to be a good year. I know it is tough. For me, coming into this studio, for instance, it's very tough. But once we understand God, we know that his ways are not our ways. And so we are in 2022.
Okay, so how, you talked about it being tough, at least the ending of this year has, I don't know what words I can use to describe it, but indescribable. How then do you move into the year 2022 with this kind of load, this kind of baggage, and hoping that it will still be a year of possibilities?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that is necessary that you do is for you to do a self-examination, a critical self-examination. And in getting to know yourself, you have to understand that it is not about you, but it is about God. So in assessing yourself, you have to understand what the mindset of God for you is. And so once you're able to know that, like in Jeremiah, he says, my thoughts for you are that of good and not of evil. And my thoughts are to bring you to unexpected end. He also says in Isaiah that I know the thoughts that I think. I like the conjugation over there. The thought sounds like past tense. That I think makes it present continuous. It means that constantly we are in the mind of God to shape us to an end that would bring us out in victory. So you do a self-assessment in the light of who God is and what God wants you to be. When we go to Genesis, in the creation, he says he used clay. When he did his artifact, because I call it artifact, he did his artifact without the breath. It was an artifact. It was only when the breath went into that artifact that he became man. Became man and got to become like you and I. And so in our assessment of ourselves, we should assess ourselves in the light of how God created us to be. And once we are able to do that, we can now go on to envision what we want to see ourselves as, still in the light of what God wants to see us as. And so for me, I think that once we are able to make the word of God our bedrock, and we make prayer our breakfast, supper, and lunch, we are able to always know that this is the right way to go and we'll arrive safely.
There are those who say that 2022, of course, we all start with a lot of resolutions, and looking back on the year, you realize that January didn't even end before you abandoned all the resolutions. Yeah. Some say that they would want to know God better and serve him better. For such people, how can you do it such that you don't abandon it?
Yes, it's not about him that willeth. It's not about him that runneth. It is God that gives the victory. And so a lot of our resolutions, for me, I call them illusions or mirages, because we just get up and say, I've seen maybe an iPhone 13 and I want it in 2022, and so I have to get it by hook or crook. And so that becomes our passion and our drive. We don't seek to know whether that is the will of God for us. And so I think that it is good to set goals, to have visions, to have projections of things that you want to do, but you need to do them in the light of God. So like 31st, we're crossing over at the Maker's house. I'm sure it would be good to have you.
Yep.
But we are going to cross over with total reliance on God to show us the way. And so if we're able to know that there is a God who is able to keep us in shape, when we are low, we know that there's a God that is high enough to bring us up. When you are up, my father in the Lord, Dr. Michael Bojiamuche, will say that no matter how high you climb, there's still a place called up. And so you know that there's a hand that needs to pull you up, and that hand is God. And so you can make resolutions, but make those resolutions knowing that there is a God that created you and a God that is sovereign and has all power. Then that is when you can be able to go through the year constantly going before Him and asking Him to shape your steps, asking Him to shape your thoughts, asking Him to lead the way so that you follow. And so once you're doing that, I said earlier, with the study of the Word, constantly going before Him in prayer, then we should be able to get to the safer side of life.
One question that one day, if I make it to heaven, is the question about why the righteous, or those we think are righteous, are taken away at a time that we don't expect that they will be taken away. So for persons who are grieving, at least at this period, maybe within a minute, something to them. This is Joy News. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of The Pulse. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. Also on DSTV channel is 421, GoTV channel 144. We are a home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. This afternoon, you are free to go to the beaches, but you must show proof of vaccination against COVID-19. That's the latest Greater Accra Regional Security Council directive as it places ban on beach operations with no vaccination, no entry policy.
8-year-old carrying a sack.
We'll also update you on our COVID cases as a country. Also this afternoon, how was your 2021 as the year draws gradually to a close? We look back on the year many have described with mixed descriptions. And also, we'll prepare you for the year 2020. I'll be joining the studios by a life coach. And later this afternoon on The Pulse, I have a big announcement. Please stay with me. I am Emefa Apau. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Remember, we're also streaming live on YouTube and all our social media handles at Joy News on TV. You can tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle also is Emefa Apau across all social media handles. We'll be right back with the details. Please stay with me.
Well, I just want you to know that there is a man that gave us the chance to be called Christians. The Bible says in Acts that it is in Antioch that they were first called Christians because of their lifestyle. But ask yourself, MFA, it took Jesus just 3 years on earth. He lived for 33 years, but it took him 3 years just to do what he had to do, and he did it to the very best. And I'm sure that we cannot decide for God. So God decides what to do when he wants to do it and how he wants to do it. And so just like scripture says, you ask, why does the righteous suffer? You are not in the place to know who is righteous. Bible says even our righteousness is like filthy rags. Yeah. So it is in the place of God to determine when he wants to call me. But the question is, am I going to be ready when I am called? And so that is my driving force. I live each day knowing that I can be called tomorrow. I can even be called after this interview, because even green leaves drop dead. So for us, we just have to always know that there is a God who will call us when he decides to call us without making us know that he's going to call us. So for us, we have to live in preparedness. And in living in preparedness, it is not like you are doing any work It is Christ that lives in you to do that work. So let's lean on Christ as we enter 2022, knowing that He's the author and finisher of our faith, and He will lead us to that expected land.
Thank you very much, Pastor Ken Fiati.
Thank you for having me. But I hope to see you on 31st.
Yes, thank you very much. He's from the Makers Chapel International. Let's take a quick break here on The Pulse. All right, back. You're live on the Joy News channel on TV. We are also live on Joy Prime. We are live on myjoyonline.com. If you're listening to us on radio, it's Joy 99.7 FM, together with a number of affiliates dotted across the 16 regions of Ghana. I am Emefa Apawu once again, and this is The Pulse. But it's a special announcement that we need to bring you at this point. Many of you are aware already, but if you're not, the head chief HR officer here at the Multimedia Group, Nana Mbro Elegba, joins me in studio. Nana, welcome.
Thank you, MFA.
Your audience.
It's with a very heavy heart, very, very sad heart, that we have to announce the death of one of our own, Elvis Koku Kwashi, the general manager for our Joy Brands, who sadly went to be with the Lord on Tuesday night, late Tuesday night, at about just before midnight. And it has left all of us heartbroken. We are in grief. Some of us are still in a state of shock. Some are still in a state of denial. Elvis has been with the group for a very long time. He rose through the ranks and became known as the face of Joy News, of course working in the background, directing as the managing news editor for years, until he was elevated to the position of general manager in charge of all the Joy brands. And he's such a fine gentleman. At this point in time, our hearts go out to his wife, Cynthia, to his 3 children, lovely children, young children. Our hearts go out to the entire family, the bereaved family. And we want to assure you that we will continue to support you. We want to give you our word. Elvis is one of our own. It pains me to the core that I'm sitting here talking about him in past tense. None of us saw this happening. But it has happened for a reason. God knows why it has happened. He said in all things we should give him thanks, so we give him all the thanks. On a very painful note, though, and we will continue to pray for the widow, we'll continue to pray for the family, and in due course, once the family announces its program, we'll give you all the details, we'll share the details with you, our cherished audience, in due course.
Well, Nana, thank you for that heart-wrenching announcement. But like you said, there will be arrangements that you'll be communicating in terms of funeral arrangements. In due course?
Yes, in due course.
Okay.
Yes.
And we know about a memorial service. When exactly?
A remembrance service. This is more of a, the memorial will be after the funeral. But we want to remember our brother and our colleague. So next week, tentatively, Wednesday morning, first thing in the morning, the plan is to hold a remembrance service in honor of our colleague, our friend, our brother, at the premises of the Joy FM Park, adjacent our radio building, first thing in the morning. And once we firm up all of the details, we'll put it out there so that his friends out there, his family members can join.
Okay.
You see that I'm still struggling to talk because it's been a very painful period and episode. So please pardon my voice. There's a lot of emotion in my voice.
It's okay. How are the multimedia family holding up in all this?
That's a tough one. It's been very difficult. There's been an outpouring of emotion internally, and I know some people are still in deep pain. Some are still in denial. But through it all, we've made the services of professionals available for those of us who may need such services, professional counseling services. But it's been a very emotional period for us, and we are very much pained by his passing. MFI is not easy. I wouldn't deny it's not easy. It's not been easy for the family. It's not been easy. Elvis has been with us. He was here. Some people may not know. He left and he came back. He rejoined in August 2010. So this past August was 11 years since he came back. And he's been in charge. Elvis is everyone's friend.
What kind of man was he? Professionally, at least, you worked with him.
Yes.
He was your friend as well, but...
the tagline for Joy News is independent, fearless, credible. That is a reflection of the man, Elvis Efo Koku, as we used to call him. That is a reflection of Elvis. Elvis is someone who is very forthright. He speaks his mind. Elvis is not afraid to speak his mind. Even if it has to come at personal cost to him, he will still speak his mind. That's Elvis, and that's the kind of courage that typifies the kind of person that he is. Elvis is a very God-fearing person. If you are close to him, Elvis and I, we used to pray together. Anytime we met in my office, we share a word of prayer, and he was loved by everyone. I believe you'd recall an occasion last year, in December. I don't recall the exact date.
It was on the 23rd.
23rd. So, yes, exactly a year ago, 23rd December, when his colleagues, the team that he was working with, decided to honor him. Of course, it was a surprise. He had no idea. He wasn't involved in the planning. It happened on the blind side. I was roped in at the last minute to distract him and take him away from the office. And when the time was set, then I was given the signal to bring him. So I said, "No, let me walk you to your office. You've come to see me, so let me take you back. One good turn deserves another." Only to walk into an ambush, and the man almost had a fit. He almost, when he entered and he was being said, the man almost, he's not used to such things. He's a very simple man at heart.
Very private, too.
Very private, a great guy, and multimedia has lost an asset. We have lost a great asset, and I believe his family has also lost an asset. But in all of this, we give God thanks.
Nana Imboelegba, I'll leave you. Thank you so much.
Thank you too,
for this official announcement. He's the Chief HR Officer here at the Multimedia Group. But is he our friend, or is he our boss? Is he our brother or our pastor? He is our Elvis. He's all this and a lot more. The real boss is what we call him. A multitude of words fills our minds. They are much more than we can speak of. The compass of our newsroom is broken. The light in our flaming torch is dim. Our paths are filled with utter darkness as our tears blind our eyes. Joy News and the Multimedia Group weeps for you, Efo, our boss, brother, and friend. I'll hear more from my colleagues shortly after this. Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us here on Joy 99.7 FM. We are celebrating the man, Elvis Koku Kwashi. He's the general manager, Joy Cluster. It's Hits FM, Joy Prime, Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News, Love, amongst others, myjoyonline.com. And that hero has fallen, as you heard Nana Mbroy Elegba announce earlier. Let me bring in some of my colleagues, but I'll start with Elvis's former colleagues here at Joy. Kojo Ponkroma, Information Minister, is joining us. Ken Ashibe is also joining us. But I'll start with Martha Krenselakwa, who's the editor at Doom News. We also have Francis Aban. He used to work here one time, and he worked closely with Elvis Kwashi as well. Martha, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Martha, we'll try as much as possible to make this easy on all of us and our listeners as well. It's emotional and all, but let's see if we can do this without breaking down. Let's start with some fond memories because it's a celebration, and you would start with us. I know your relationship with Elvis Kwashi as well. Let's talk about the fond memories you have.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Elvis, and at a point in time, he wants to be called EL Baby, and he tells us he's funky, and he's a young man, so he wants the EL to show us how young he is. You know, one thing that Elvis said that stuck with me is that we spend so much time together as colleagues in the office more than we spend with our families. And so if there is anything we can do to make us live together in harmony, we should do it. Because sometimes he leaves home so early and goes home late. He sees us, in fact, he puts it this way: I see you more than I see my wife sometimes. And so let's try and be together and live in harmony. And you know how he will just sneak and come behind my desk and just come and tickle me, because he knows he always gets me. And I'll just scream and say, Efo, why? And he says, after so many children, you still have feelings. Look at you. Stop that, else you will have more children. And anywhere he meets me, even after joining Adom, he sometimes calls me to his office. Then you ask him, are you okay? Is everything fine there? Do you want to come? Do you want to come back to join me? I am always ready for you. I need you to come and work. Come back here. I said, it's the same family. So whatever I will do at Joy, I will do at Adom always. And Elvis was always there to get you to work. But when it comes to sharing personal problems with him, he's there to listen to you. We'll meet most of the time outside, and we'll spend few minutes to talk to you about how the work is going, how your family is. And let me share this. At one point, he said he wanted to buy brazier for his daughter. So he met me outside and said, can we go and get a boutique and buy? I said, Efo, send me. If you know the size, just send me. I'll go and buy it for you. He said, no, I want to surprise her, so I want to go with you. and then buy it and take it to him myself. That is how close he is with his children, with anybody who is close with Elvis.
Well, Martha Quensola-Kwathe, editor at Dome News. I have Araba Kumsin. I also have Fifi Kumsing also joining us, and then Francis Aban. Araba, Fifi, and Francis, welcome as well. So, Araba, you have worked the longest, I think, with Hello, Araba. Well, I have Araba Kumsin, if you can hear me, and then also Fifi Kumsin. They are our editors here in the newsroom. Araba, you have to unmute. Fifi, if you can also unmute. And then I'll bring in Francis Aban as well. Francis, I know you call Efo a brother as well. I don't know if Araba is all clear. Araba, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Nima.
Super. Araba, you've worked the longest also in the newsroom with Elvis. Let's talk about some of the fondest memories you have. Araba?
I'll try and remember you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Araba. Please go on.
Okay. So I'm saying that there's so many. I mean, there's so many to count. I just can't even put a finger on any one of them right now. But the one that comes to mind right now is the story of a little girl who was defiled by her grandfather, a 7-year-old girl. I remember how the story evolved. Someone told, I think it was Nanoye Bamboado, who told Israel about the story. Then Israel picked it up, did the first bit of the story, and then passed it on to me. Initially, I didn't want to do it, but as I learned more about the story, I was touched by the little girl's plight, and so I decided to take it up. So at a point, I always had to go to court for an update on the matter, and I was getting tired because there was no end in sight to the story. But Elvis would encourage me and say, you know what, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So just keep on keeping on, just stay on the story. Because at the end of the day, beg your pardon, at the end of the day, what we want is justice for the little girl. And indeed, we got justice. So that is one thing that stands out in my mind. He is somebody who will encourage you to get to the end. You would feel like giving up. I mean, there have been several times, in many instances, that I felt like giving up. But Elvis is somebody who can talk you out of giving up. Let me put it that way. So that is one that stands out in my mind for now.
Well, Araba, thanks so much for sharing. I know there are many, many, many stories that you have that you can share with us. But let's do Fifi Kumsing. Fifi leads the Joy News team and my Joy Online as well. Fifi, let's talk about your working relationship. You have personal and working relationship also with Elvis. There have been a lot of fights that we've witnessed as well. But let's talk about it.
You know, MFR, Elvis was the embodiment of smartness and professionalism. He represented the very DNA of the profession. Yes, he was a professional. He knew how to bring his team together to deliver. And in the most difficult of times, Elvis knew how to plan, he knew how to organize, he knew how to direct, he knew how to control issues. Now, when Elvis joined MGL as editor, I had finished my national service within the Joy Newsroom. And as a man who had eyes for talent, Elvis immediately identified me and put me on one of the most important pillars in the newsroom, documentaries. It was tough at the beginning, but with the strongest support, and I mean strongest support, he had a lot of confidence in me. He knew that I could do the work. I was able to get Seth Kwame Boateng, Kweku Osue-Pram, Manasseh Azuri-Awuni, and all the others to drive the desk. Today, documentaries remain a major pillar within the Joy News offerings. We will love him for his leadership because since this time, under his leadership, under Elvis Kwashi's leadership, we've won over 100 awards, local and international, for our documentary desks. He was the first to arrive and the last to leave the office. Elvis was indeed an astute leader, passionate about his work. He was a brother, a counselor, and a friend.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fifi Koomson, for joining us, leads the Joy News team also telling us about his fondest memories of Elvis Koku Kwashi. We call him Efo. Well, let's bring in, I know Francis Aban is joining us, but let's bring in Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, Ghana's information minister, also worked some time with Elvis Kwashi. We'll also bring in Ken Ashigbe and, of course, Tandobe as well. Mr. Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, thank you very much for joining us today here on Joy and then also on the Joy News channel and Joy Prime as well. How did the news hit you? And let's talk about also what you remember about the man Elvis Koku Kwashi. Please unmute, Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah.
Hi, MFR. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. So we're asking about your working relationship with Elvis. You worked with him at some point in time. What would you remember him for?
Yes. In fact, as I'm speaking to you, myself and Ken Ashigbe, who's chief executive of the telecoms chamber, just left Elvis's house to see Cynthia and the rest of the family. And it's a very heartbreaking moment for everybody. I think this is one of the biggest institutional losses that, as a family, as the multimedia family, we have suffered. Because, as I think a few of our colleagues have mentioned earlier, Elvis is the epitome of professionalism mixed with care. He's tough, but frank and firm with everybody. Elvis came in as the deputy editor when our boss at the time, Matilda Santiago, was the editor. And I was, I think, host of the morning show at the time. And like I mentioned earlier, he's very professional, but also very, very human and friendly in all his dealings. He had an every word with which he referred to me. And I also referred to him with that same word. I think it was Ekbo, which I understand means good. And, it tells you the kind of sense of humor that Elvis has. Since I left, I became minister. Elvis is the kind of person who will work with you professionally and, I say, even deal with you on a professional level. And then after that, as a brother, you can call him or he'll call you, and then we can have a personal evaluation of this one. Actually, this one you do nya. Oh, this one you got it right. This one you didn't do it well. This one I was disappointed in you. This one I was happy with how you handled it. But that's how forthright Elvis was. And my most recent recollection is just about a month ago when I called him, and he couldn't pick up, and he called me back later. I missed your call, and I was like, I hadn't heard from you in a while. How are you doing? And he was of the view that maybe getting through the Christmas and New Year period, we should have an opportunity to sit down and catch up. Until I think just about a week after that, we heard of his illness, and we all tried to rally behind the scenes to see how we could help. But I guess the Lord knew better. So our condolences. As we've just expressed to Cynthia and the children and the entire family that is gathered here at the house, to the entire multimedia family and to the media fraternity as well.
We're grateful. Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We also have Kenneth Ashigbe, the Telecoms Chamber CEO, also worked here at some point and interacted closely with Elvis Kwashi as well. Mr. Ashigbe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Let's talk about your days of working with Elvis Kwashi.
So you see, the first time when I was general manager of Joy FM was when we had Elvis, and he's had that calm demeanor, but is deep and very professional in what he does. And in my last, encounters with him, out of Joy, and when there are things to be done, when dealing with the media coalition against Galamsey, all of these things, you reach out to Elvis when there's something that needs to be done in terms of the media being the fourth estate of the realm. You always will find him rise up to the occasion. And the very last one was this Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. And Elvis, myself, Richard Kwashiga, Mao Kwafajinu, were the people who started this, said, oh, this is a need that we needed to rally around and find ways in which we can get the media to get to help, get Ghanaians to help. And so when we had done it, I had said to Elvis that, Elvis, I wanted you to also be one of the conveners for this particular project. But typical of Elvis, he says, no, me, I want to stay in the background and that's it. And that's him, he would get us all the time that we needed on the media to be able to drive, this particular action. And and Kojo was the one who told me about 2 weeks ago that Elvis was not well and the fact that we needed to pray for him. And so we're praying. And he said he had admonished me that I shouldn't call him, but we should just pray. And yesterday, I had a Zoom meeting at 8. But before 7 p.m., there was this strong edge that, okay, so Elvis, it's been a while since Kojo told you this. Send Elvis a message, send him a message. And then I was contemplating, I don't want to bother him. And, so it was like that. Apparently, that was when, Elvis was leaving to the Lord.
Yeah.
He was such a professional's professional. And, it's as if some people come into this world and they know that somewhere they are going to go. So they pack a lot of things into that. And I think Elvis has written his name in gold, and he'll be remembered for all the good work that he's done.
We are grateful. That's Kenneth Ashigbe, one-time general manager here at the Multimedia Group, and then also worked closely, interfaced closely with Elvis Kwashi, the man we've lost today, the man we all used to call the real boss. He will continue to be a real boss to many of us. Efo, as he is affectionately called here in the newsroom. Let me bring in Francis Aban. I know he impacted him a lot as well. He worked with him closely, one time hosted the Midday News, amongst others, hosted the Pulse as well at some point in time. Francis, we lost a brother.
We've lost a brother that God gifted me. Evening, everyone, and I can see many very good friends and bosses eulogizing the man, and it's still difficult for me to still refer to him as was. It will take me quite a while before I come around to the idea of understanding that he's no more. As you said, we should celebrate him, and there are so many memories that I have of him that I can never ever let go. I remember the first day I walked into the Joy FM newsroom. The one I asked myself, will I make it? And it was a real character, a real test.
Am I losing Francis? Francis, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, much better. I can hear you now. Please continue.
Yes, I was saying that in the 5 years that I worked closely with Elvis, he took me under his wing as a younger brother and taught me the ropes. I remember the first story I went to do, I came back, it wasn't a good one. And he took me to the side, gave me a proper dress down. I got home very sad, very angry with myself. In fact, there was a colleague I told that, I don't think this man likes me. And they all laughed at me and said, you don't know what you're talking about. The one he loves the most is the one he chastens the most. And he really took me through a moment of physical and spiritual growth. He will pray with you. He will speak to you about things not only about the job, but about your own personal well-being, about your health, about family, about finance, about being true to the core values that make you unique, being able to take on challenges and being forthright. I mean, after leaving Multimedia Group, and it was a very difficult time exiting, I had to go see him the morning after I resigned. We cried our hearts out, and I promised that I would be in touch. And from that day till now, and until very recently, I'd always been in touch with him. He always looked out for me. It is very difficult to lose a man of his caliber, a man who was devoted to his craft, a man who genuinely cared for his fellow man, a patriot, hardworking. I've lost more than a brother. I've lost God's greatest, by far, one of God's greatest gifts for me.
Thank you very much, Francis Aban, there, telling us about his fondest memories of Elvis Kwashi. I'll take you shortly to Studio 997 and join more of my colleagues and those who have worked closely with Elvis throughout the years and the period. But watch this.
I remember running straight to my boss's office upon my return to Accra, and I remember very well picking a marker, trying to paint the picture of the problem to him on a whiteboard in the office.
Every year, imagine if it's only one, 365 babies die every day. I come from North Teaching Hospital, all due to congestion. You know, babies, anything they touch.
Shock on his face, and all he wanted to know was whether I had videos and pictures to prove. When I said yes, Elvis Kwashi said, "Kwame, let's do the story. In fact, we are starting our new program, special assignment with it."
Kwame, let's get it done.
Yeah.
Where's Jahu? Let's call Jahu.
Jahu.
Let's call Jahu. Jahu is the lead for special assignment. Let's call him. Let's speak to the morning show team. Let's have a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. A plan that covers all the platforms. Okay.
I decided that we start special assignment from there because you know that this kind of story was not in the line of equation, the kind of things that we wanted to use the special assignment for. It wasn't like that. We wanted to grow. We wanted to create a product, okay, that will be unique, that will be informative, that will document our history. So, Confanoche wasn't a part of the plan from the beginning, but the figures were so shocking, and I thought that would be a good thing to start from there. We appreciate the IG's interest in this case. We work very closely with the police. The work we do, we are also police people. Okay. We speak for the people. And so our work, we work in tandem with the police. And Latif in particular has been working with the police. I'm sure his latest documentary, you saw him in the military gear, okay, embedded with the military. It's a bit surprising that it happened. But we trust that the proper thing will be done. We will push you. We will push you to investigate this. And we will keep you on your toes. I can promise you that. And make sure that those who did this are found. I think it's in our interest, the police, we in the media, and the public interest, that we find those people. I believe the police are a noble institution. They are very nice men and women in the police service. But also, there are bad nuts who must be spoken out.
That's Elvis Kwashi. Some moments, the rare moments that we're able to capture of him speaking into the microphones. The newsbreaker is now the news today. Elvis is always shy of the cameras, will push you and do all the background work for things to happen. Well, we'll hear more from my colleagues, and I'll cross over to Studio 997 and join my colleague Mapitso Sibidi to interact with more of my colleagues.
Celebrating the man, the myth, the legend. Elvis EL Baby, F4, F4, F4. Joined by assisting editor Seth Kwame Boateng, head of business.
Celebrating the man, the myth,
Odilia,
the legend.
And I also have senior journalist
Elvis
here.
EL Baby.
I'm going to start with Seth Kwame Boateng. I mean, we were watching the video and he was like, Kwame, let's do it. You posted something on your Facebook. Kwame, let's do it. Kwame, what would you like to say?
The last conversation I had with him was, I think, the 2nd December or so. You know, I had not been well, so I had been away for some time. Then he would call and pray with me. He would call and tell me, Kwame, we have a lot to do. We have lives to touch, so I beg you, you must get well and come back. We have a lot to do. So, 2nd December, I had a chat with him, and I shared with him some ideas I have. Immediately I ended, he said, super, let's start. 2 ideas, let's start. I didn't hear from him, and he told me he had not been well, so I told him, oh, I brought some drugs from the UK, so I'm going to bring you some. I didn't hear from him. I will call, no response. And I was like, oh, has he traveled? So on the 7th of December, I sent him a message. Efo, good morning. Are you okay? Not seen you for some time. Everything fine? No response. I sent the same message to his private phone. No response. So I started asking, where is Efo? Then I was told he's not been well, but he's resting, so we don't have to disturb him. You know, Maps, I've known Efo since 2006 or so, when I was in the university. 2004, when I was in the university. I was then a stringer for Joy News. Efo will call me, no matter the time, whether I'm in a lecture hall or whatever, he will call. Kwame, there is this assignment in Asimfosu. I need you to get there in the next hour. I will tell Efo I'm in class. He said, I don't care. You have to get it done. And I will just leave and go and do it. Then he left multimedia. He came back. Then I was doing my master's. 2009, he called me. As a 10th, he called me. I was in class. Said, I am back and we have to meet. I came and said, Seth, I want you to focus on documentaries. And I'm going to free you to do it. I'm not going to worry you. And as for you don't really need supervision. I know you get the job done, so please, you go ahead. This man believed in me. And I'm devastated. I wrote a while ago that, yes, I lost my mom. He was there for me. I lost Saeed Ali Yaqub, and he was there. And now I've lost him. Maps is...
yeah.
It's I can't believe it. I'm here and I'm talking about Efo as somebody in the morgue.
Yeah.
It was under him I won all my awards.
Mm-hmm.
The other day I was telling him that I counted my awards and I had reached around 30. And I won all these awards under Efo. And here are we today.
And here we are today, Odilia, head of business. In 2 to 3 minutes, I mean, you dealt with Efo at management level. Could you share something with us?
I remember the last meeting we had as managers, about 8 to 9 of us who work under him. he had asked that we do a review of 2021 and share with him in terms of feedback what we thought of him as a leader and what his shortfalls are and what we felt that he should improve upon. And that for me was really, really interesting. I haven't met too many leaders like that who are willing to have it straight in their face, exactly what you thought in terms of feedback that you're giving to them. I found that really, I found that as coming from him as a very humble leader. You could always go to him and tell him your frustrations as a leader, what you thought, or in terms of what he thought you should do about certain situations, how you felt that you will handle the issues, and the feedback he will give you in terms of what he also thought about the same situation. It was really shocking to me. I'm in the office and he will come and say, Davi, I have come, you are the boss. And then he will sit down, and all of us know that he will call his subordinates boss. And when you wanted to call him a boss, he will never take it. He would always want you to call him by his first name and all that. And so at that meeting, all of us shared with him what our thoughts are, and what he said in reply was that definitely 2022 was going to be an improvement. We were just going to work together. We should always work together. And I remember one time I went to his office and he said that, Odelia, we need to leave a legacy. And the legacy we need to leave, when we leave this place and we know that we have left and our names are etched anywhere, it should come with legacy. It should come with impact. It should come with something that other people will remember us for. And for me, I found that really amazing. I think that he's a fantastic leader that we have lost. As a leader, being in management, I was really getting to know him just when the love relationship was growing. As you know, as a team lead, working with the rest of the team members. Then we had this bad news, and I feel that it's really a big loss for all of us.
It's a big loss for all of us. I mean, he didn't just impact Joy News, but Joy Business, Joy Sports, and we have here George, who's part of the business team. George, a few words for Elvis.
I think that when Nana Legba was speaking earlier on, he spoke about somebody who's God-fearing. I think that if there's any other word to describe somebody who believes and trusts in God, maybe I believe I could have used that to describe that person. That Elvis also made everyone around him believe in God and trust in God as well. And at the business desk, we used to have our meetings first, and once in a while we just prayed. Elvis at a point in time had direct supervision over the desk and make sure that we're sharing the word of God from Monday to Friday at our meetings before we do all those things. And I'm just saying that he made you believe and trust in God, that your source of strength is not just about the human might, but there has to be a God somewhere that you have to believe in that God. And apart from your physical might, where do you draw your strength spiritually from? And that has to be God. And if you have to play in his team, you were indirectly infected to believe and trust in God. And he's somebody who really believes and trusts in God and makes sure that, listen, even though we have to use our might to do this thing, that other thing is there. And for me, that is one thing that he made all of us believe, that there's a God somewhere. Let's trust in God, and he's going to help us. And sometimes you look at someone like this, it doesn't mean that Christians do not die, but you ask yourself, where is our God in whom we trust? Because you believe that God protects his own. And you ask yourself, and you begin to ask yourself a lot of questions, and the more you try to ask questions, the things that you don't understand, you just don't want to understand it.
Seth Kwame Boateng, assisting editor, Odelia, who's head of business, and also George, who is part of the business team. Elvis, F4, Le Boss, the real boss. Our last conversation, you told me our agenda continues. And I don't know how that agenda is going to continue without you. I don't know how, and I don't know who will pull me back when I sway. Will pull me back when I sway of my Christian life, when I become lazy at work. I don't know how or who will pull me up and tell me to come. Maps, you can do it. The last thing you told me is that you're proud of me. I made you proud, and now you've made me sad. Over to you, MFA.
Thank you very much, Mapitso Sibidi, there interacting with more of my colleagues as we celebrate the man, Elvis Koku Kwashi, #the real boss. Well, he's impacted two of my colleagues as well that I would want to hear from. They are the latest addition to the team, but they've given us a lot and they were pushed to do so. There's a man who was behind them to do or give off the best that you see on the screens and here on radio. My colleagues Manuel Kranting and Kweku Asante. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We shouldn't be meeting under such circumstances, but it's okay. Kweku has an interesting encounter with Elvis Kwashi that we should all hear.
I came to Multimedia one Tuesday afternoon, and it was an editorial meeting, and he was giving his fierce feedbacks as usual. And I saw all the stars that I used to look up to in the newsroom. All of them were quiet, and we were all listening to the man. When I left that day, I questioned myself whether I could survive in this media house. The next morning I came, and then he called me to his office, and then we spoke as normal. I was coming to do mainstream media for the first time. I had done campus radio for some time. He gave me my first big stint. He sent me the very first full day to cover a full accident in Suhum in the eastern region. I went to the hospital, followed up with the police, and then when I came back, he said he was impressed with what I did. He fed me for a long time after that. He bought me lunch every single day. It was for a long time. I cannot put the number of days to it. Elvis was that man who did not look at you with your body frame. He was only interested in what you could do. And he was always pushing us to do our best. Every single time that I was on radio, I was on TV, he would text me, give me feedback. It was never personal. He was firm, he was fierce, but you could only see that he was doing that because he loved his job and that he loved you also. And so I'll miss him spectacularly. And it is sad that I didn't get to have a last word with him. I remember the last time he came into the newsroom, he came to speak with you, and I was sitting there. He promised me that, Kweku, you'll get a laptop. And Elvis is gone now. It's not something that I ever expected. He seemed larger than life. But Elvis is gone, and I know that he will rest well with his maker.
I won't put the name out that he used to call you. I won't put it out. But Manuel, I managed to get a smile out of you. Yeah. That was the target.
I mean, I've been struggling to, get that out. I mean, Elvis knew me from Legon campus when I used to do morning show on Radio Universe. I remember one time I hosted a show and I got a call from Joy FM, and in a matter of minutes, Joseph Akable was there and said, Elvis said I should come for you. And so you need to stop doing the show and then we'll go. And I told him, I'm in my final year. I need to finish, with school before I come. He said, okay, so start it. Start the process to get out of here. And that was how, so in 2019, I decided to, come and pass through and see if I could survive here. When I got here, I remember it was in the last week of December 2019. When I got here, I just won an award for Student Journalist of the Year. And when I entered the news meeting, he said, oh, Fifi, you don't know this guy? The whole Ghana, he's a Student Journalist of the Year. Send him, send. It was the year of return. I remember vividly. Immediately, Fifi Kumsen gave me a camera and then a driver, and then I was at Art Center. In a matter of minutes, I was on the midday news doing a live report. My first day as a national service person here was on 3rd of August 2020. That day I covered the President Akufo-Addo. He was launching VW vehicles. In that same space, I covered John Mahama on his campaign tour. Elvis made the 6 a.m. team. This was on the 22nd of September. And I remember all of these because It was 5:19 a.m. Joseph Akabe called me and said that, Mano, boss say you for come do the 6 a.m. news. And I was in Legon, 5:19. But I got here, and when I got here and I did the news, immediately I was doing roving at the time, so I got out to do it. Elvis was parked outside. And then he called me to his vehicle and he clapped for me. And then he hugged me and he said that, I told you, we will do it. And I mean, after service, we've been going back and forth about whether you're going to stay here or you're not going to stay here. He said that, I've told you that we're going to do it. Trust me, we are going to do it right now. I don't know.
Stay with me. I need your support at this point. Stay with me. Let's go live on Zoom and bring in Edem Naite, Head of Programs, Joy FM. Hello, Edem. Hello, Edem.
Hi, MFA.
Well, Edem, we are celebrating.
MFA, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We are celebrating Elvis. I have witnessed a number of your fights and interactions with Elvis. Well, it's a good time to celebrate him. Let's talk about maybe one or two of your fondest memories of Elvis Kwashi.
I don't know where to start from, MFA. I'm so broken. I don't know. But yes, the fight, that's how it started. That love relationship started with a fight. We weren't seeing eye to eye from the beginning because I am a strong character and Elvis is too. So from the beginning it was a bit jerky. But we settled in after just a month. We had our biggest fight after 1 month, and I was so upset. I sent him a message. He asked me to come to his office. I went. By the time he was done talking to me, I apologized from the depths of my heart. And I said to him, Efo, I pledge my allegiance. I will work with you and I will work under you. Lead and let me follow. And MFA, since then, look, when this happened, one of our colleagues sent a message and said, this is our collective loss, but Edem, I think Elvis was more of a best friend to you than a boss. I said, you have no idea. We fought a lot of times, but I don't know. I am so broken. I will sit in my car and scream, Efo, but this was not the plan. This was not the plan. We never had this conversation. You never even said you were going to fall sick, let alone pass on like this. It is so, so painful. I was in his office almost every day because, you know, you manage Joy. It's one of the biggest brands under him, actually. So every single moment we were having conversations about Joy FM. We were talking, your team, this, that. I had every time. There was sometimes as late as midnight. Elvis would send you messages. Sometimes phone calls, 11. This has happened. Have we done this? Have we done that? He taught me a lot of things. Odilia was saying we had peer reviews. And I was personally amazed at some of the reviews my peers were giving me. And I owed it all to Elvis, and I told him, I am very happy that I told him all the support and all the mentoring he gave me to see me coming up like this. It's so heartbreaking to just realize that Elvis is no more. I can't come to terms with it. He taught me, and I will say this before I go. He says, Edem, leadership is about making decisions. You will have to make decisions, no matter how tough. Everybody will not like your decisions. If you have to confer with other people. If you have to talk to somebody about it, talk to somebody. But by all means, make the decisions. And when you're done, and it turns out that, look, it really wasn't the best of decisions, do not be afraid to go back and say that, look, I thought this was going to work, but it really didn't. And so let's go back to do things some other way. And it was one thing that he was never afraid to do. He will make the decisions. You can challenge him. He will listen to you. But at the end of the day, he tells you somebody has to make the decisions. And if we're not seeing eye to eye, then, of course, he will make the decision. And he taught me that. He has been a friend. Elvis has just been Well, MFN, trust me, all the things that people are saying about Elvis today is not because he is not around. You just had to get close to him, to know him, and to understand that this dude was just a professional who just wanted his work done in a certain way. And he loved God to a fault. There was one day he and I were having conversations about tithes. After that, I said, Efo, I am sorry. I'm apologizing to God for all the times I haven't paid my tithes, because he led me on a certain path. There were times that, as human as we are. But Elvis will be missed. And it really won't be the same without him. Trust me.
Adam Naite there is the head of programs, Joy, and she mentioned at some point that it's not because Elvis is not around. That's why we're saying all the things that we say about him. Shortly, I'll show you that the things that my colleagues told him in the face whilst he was alive, while celebrating him. But let me bring in Gary Al Smith, head of Joy Sports, joining me also via Zoom. Gary, you interacted with Elvis also on different levels. What was one of these fondest memories you would have that you want to share with us?
I suppose good afternoon would have been a good greeting, but it's not a good afternoon for us. And so I'll just start by saying condolences to the family of Mr. Kwashi, for who, in my opinion, this loss is a huge, huge blow that we, his other family. And so may God be with them and strengthen them in this difficult time. Also because, MFA, I think everybody on this call and program would readily admit that the biological family of Elvis Kwashi lent their son to us, and now we can say that we borrowed Elvis Kwashi from his real family, and he became ours. I've heard one or two people on this call say that he was the first to come and the last to leave. And, as open as I am, I told some of you and Elvis himself that, boss, go home, boss. But it was just the worth of the man that, if I say that in the last few years, it is, an open secret that the Joy brands, particularly the baby of the multimedia group, Joy FM, had a few challenges a few years ago. And everybody on this call knows one of Elvis's key and favorite phrases, apart from what Mabs has said and Seth Kwame Boati has said. He will say, super, let's do it. But one of his favorites, we'll fix it. We'll fix it.
Once he says that.
And by God, he fixed it. You know what they said about Joy FM? You know what they said about Joy, the Joy brand? 3 years ago, only 3 years ago. You know what they say about Joy FM now? Yeah. For everybody watching, whoever doubted that Joy was going down, and for those who cannot and can be bold enough to admit that Joy has taken its place as the undisputed dominant news brand, it wasn't because of anybody but the man we are celebrating today. And the reasons are what everybody on this call has said. Because he was tough, and I'm sorry if I have to say, because he was the first to show up when decisions had to be made, and the last to leave when celebration had to be done. My personal story is pretty simple.
Yeah.
I have always been the guy, I'm focused on the job. I want to get the job done. So sometime in 2019, Elvis says, look, you have the necessary fire and drive and all that to lead a Joy Sports team, you and George Adu Jr. And we talk about it, and everything is done. And when the appointment is made, we were made acting. When we were, what do you call it? When it was made official.
Mm-hmm.
After a few days, he sees me in one of the hallways and says, "Oh, but Charlie, I've not seen any of the blogs doing the story that you become Joy Sports editor and so on and so on." And then I repeated one of the things that he likes to say, and I said, "Boss, I want to be in the background." And we all laughed because, you know, he likes to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he would call me a few days later and he says, like joke, I've not seen the story anywhere. And I said, "I'm serious. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. If anybody sees the story anywhere, then that's there. I'm not going to announce that I become." No. You always say we should let the work speak for us, and that's what we are going to do, George and I.
Okay. Gary.
So,
yeah. I'll leave it here for now. I'm sure there are many, many more encounters that we'll get to talk more about Elvis Kwashi. If I leave my colleagues, there are a lot of stories that they would want to share. I will share mine in due course as well. But let me bring in Erastus Asare Donko. And this man has a swell of, you know, encounters and stories to share with his experience with Elvis Kwashi. Erastus, don't be a journalist today and give me a very short, fondest memory you would have to share with the man Elvis Kwashi.
Thank you very much. Elvis was my father. He would like to discipline me in his own words. He never called me by the usual names that you guys call me, Erastus Asare Donko. He called me Kwaku Donko. And whenever he's angry with me, when he calls, he will pitch his voice a bit high and then will say, Kwaku Donko. And I had to respond, "Boss." He said, "Don't call me boss. You are boss." And he corrected me with every word I got wrong in my report. When I see his message, it means he has something for me. He will say, "Kwaku Donko, don't use my airwaves to pronounce words like this." And I remember that for the rest of my life. And he's tough. I mean, he's an embodiment of the brand that we work for. Strong, resilient. He will let you speak your mind, but he will get the job done. Hate him or like him, he's that person. The business comes first, but then he loves people. When you get close to him, he's like an onion. He has layers and layers of attitudes that you will love and hate at the same time. But I like the man. I like the man, and I was so close to him. He will call my wife, they will talk. He calls my family, and they will talk. And when he needs something and he thinks it's good, you must justify why you need it. And he will make sure that it will be done. So welfare was on his mind as well for us at the regional level. And I'll forever remember him.
Erastus, thank you very much for joining us. In the coming days, we'll be hearing more from friends, family, loved ones of Elvis Kwashi, the man I call Efo, shortly. And Nana Imroelegba is still with me in the studio. He's been providing immense support for me here in the studio. I'll wrap up with him, but before that, I was telling you about the celebration, that surprise that Nana Elegba spoke about earlier, that was put together for the man Elvis Kwashi. Watch this.
Quietly, we waited for him to walk in. A clearly astonished Elvis Kwashi wondered what was going on. The man who sees it all and knows it all was for the first time in the dark. Staff then took turns sharing memorable moments with the Elvis Kwashi. First was host of The Pulse on Joy News, Gifty Andopia.
Elvis gave me my first opportunity on Joy FM.
Joy News editor Israel Lai, multiple award-winning journalist Seth Kwame Boateng, and Chief Human Resource Manager Nana Elegba praised his remarkable commitment to the Joy brand.
We all know that he's a jolly good fellow, and we say God bless him.
And from 2013 to date, I have about 25 awards, thanks to his leadership. And we want to celebrate you while you are still alive.
Channel manager for Joy News Emily Yankong, ace producer Blade Souza, and head of Joy News political desk Evans Mensah followed, sharing heartwarming stories about the encounter with Elvis Kwashi.
He's been a great leader. I mean, and I must say this, and I'm not like bias here. One of the reasons why people like us have stayed for this long is because of Elvis.
Spiritually, physically, you've been there. And I want to say God bless you.
Amen. His leadership, we share a lot. It's guided me. It's brought me this far. And he will empower you. He will give you all the power you need to do whatever you do. And when it comes to defending, he's there to defend you.
It was then time for the gifts to start pouring in. A citation was presented to him on behalf of the multimedia group. A teary assignment editor, Fred Smith, then offered him a special gift.
He's made a very big impact in my life, my professional life. In fact, I would be dead by now if he had not come for me at the time he did.
Full of appreciation, Elvis Kwashi extended his gratitude to the team.
I'm very humbled by this. I feel so loved. I think it's time to quit. So I really, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I pray for wisdom for each and every one of us. What I told God at the beginning of the year is that nobody under my watch should die. And I thank God that on the 23rd of December, everybody's alive and kicking. It's a testimony to the glory of God.
Oh, and there was enough food and drinks to go around. Faustina Safo for Joy.
So this was on the 23rd of December 2020. The team put this together, led by Seth Kwame Boateng. At the time that Seth was pushing us all to do this, we're all wondering, why do we want to do such a thing at the time that we did? But we bought into it and celebrated Elvis Kwashi. This was last year. And you heard Nana Elegba mention that we'd do it while he's alive. And as a team, we're so proud that we got to do that before this day. So today for us is a celebration of a life well lived. Koku, we celebrate you. Well, there are a number of messages. You go on Facebook, Twitter. I didn't know that people love Elvis this much. I thought it was just us. We're always happy to, keep him to ourselves. But the world shared him with us as well, the family and all. We have a number of tributes that I would want to go through a few of them. There's one from former President John Dramani Mahama, and it says, "Rest in peace, Elvis. I knew Elvis from my days as a young Deputy Minister for Communications, especially when, as a young journalist, he was assigned to cover Parliament. He was a good person, and his days with the Multimedia Group showcased his professional journalistic trait and a classic example of how to play the gatekeeping role as a media person. I was by his bedside briefly during his period of hospitalization and feel indeed sad that he was unable to pull through. We can only thank God for his life, and my heart goes out at this time to his wife, Cynthia, and children, family, and to the multimedia group. That's former President John Dramani Mahama. There's one also from his very good friend, Dr. Mane Boama. This one says, another painful exit. Elvis was a quintessential gentleman who represented the very essence of humanity. My deepest condolence to Cynthia, their kids, his extended family, Kwesi Chum, and the entire multimedia group. Rest in perfect peace. Bro, he says, Elvis, rest in power. There's one I'm also seeing from Sami Jemfi, communications officer of the NDC. He says, just hearing news of the passing of one of the gentle, noble, and finest professional journalists I've ever met in my dealings with the media, Mr. Elvis Kwashi, General Manager of Joy Brands. Condolences to his family and the multimedia group. Very heart-wrenching, he adds. R.I.P., bro. Baba Sadiq sends this one. He says, oh, Elvis Kwashi, I am heartbroken. Damn, death. This will definitely slow my day, he says. Manasseh Azuriawuni has one. He says, may God grant his soul eternal rest. It is difficult to accept this cruel reality, but there's nothing we can do about it, he writes. Raymond Akwa, my colleague, also has this. He says, Elvis Kwashi is the best leader I've worked with so far. But there will be time for eulogies later. He says, for now, our thoughts and prayers are with the immediate family. May we, who survive him, be more strongly cemented in the ties of union and friendship, that during the short space allotted us here on earth, we may wisely and usefully employ our time, and in the reciprocal intercourse of kind and friendly acts, mutually promote the welfare and happiness of each other. There's one from Jifa Hiachi. He worked also at one time with Elvis. He says, Elvis, a.k.a. Le Koku. He says, Le Koku's passing will surely inspire us to reflect on our lives and encourage us to work on our purposes on this earth. What do we want to accomplish? What do we dream of doing to change the world? The environment, discover ourselves, turn talent into skill, tell someone we love them, start a business, run for office, etc. One thing for sure, he says, Le Koku will take along with him is his sense of humor. There's one also from Shelley Kwashi, my big brother. Who do I report myself to now? Who will be frank with me when I'm wrong to chastise me? Oh, Elvis, I didn't bargain for this year. You only told me that you were not well on Monday, but promised to see me soon. Oh, God, you know best. Please keep him safe. Forgive him of any wrong and accept him. Rest well, my dear. I will miss you. There's one from Kenneth Awachi Daku. He says, rest in peace. Doc, he calls him. You are indeed a quintessential boss, and the whole Joy News team will miss your immense tutelage. A boss like no other. May God keep you, Elvis Kwashi. I'm seeing one from Daniel Datsi. He says, 4 years ago, he called me one afternoon and offered me a job, put me on national television. Since then, he's prayed for me, fathered me, praised me, and shouted at me when I needed both. That's Daniel Datsi's message. I'm reading that also on Facebook. A number of your messages. At this point, I can't go through the rest. Apologies. Nana, you've heard the things that have been said about your former employee, your friend, your brother, among others. In wrapping up, I'm sure a word or two to all of us, those who are grieving. You're a pastor as well, so it's a good time for you to also strengthen us whilst you are also down. So,
yeah, thank you very much, MFR. Like you said, we are grieving. But in all of this, we have to be careful not to question God. Definitely, there's a reason why God allowed it to happen. once it happens, it means that God knew that it was going to happen and he allowed it to happen. So what I would encourage all of us to do is to thank God for the short time that he gave Elvis to us as one of our very own. Let's thank God for the life of Elvis, the time that he spent with his family, impacting lives and making lives better. Everyone can testify that Elvis made them a better person when they came into contact with him. So let's carry these memories along with us. It's good. Weeping may endure for a night. So yes, those of us who are grieving, let's grieve. But when grieving comes to an end, let's remember him for the wonderful things that he stood for the professionalism that everyone has talked about. And I believe that we will work hard to ensure that his legacy does not become embellished, but his legacy would live on. We can only do that through the hard work, by continuing to do the professional things that he taught us, by continuing to speak up courageously, by continuing to be fearless, and by continuing to uphold what the brand stands for. And so that's what we can do to honor his memory. And I would encourage every single one of us that let's make sure that the memory and the legacy of Elvis Kwashi lives on.
Thank you very much, Nana Mbroye-Legba. He's Chief HR here at the Multimedia Group, and he brought us that heart-wrenching news. But Cynthia, Sarah, Sedem, Senam, you've heard the world talk about your father. And thank you for sharing your father, your husband, your friend with the rest of us. God be with you and strengthen you. We are with you in this. But remember that Elvis Kwashi lives on and his memory will continue to be with us. One thing he always says that we'll always remember as leaders and as people who worked with him, he says, don't expect what you don't inspect. And he will ask you, what's my name? And you have to respond grudgingly, even if you're fighting. He's a real boss. You have to respond. He's a real boss. Efo, to us, you still continue to be the real boss. You are in our hearts. We'll leave it here for now, and we'll continue to celebrate him on all our platforms because he's a man worth celebrating. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good afternoon. Thanks for your company.